And so we'll see how far we get with that today. Hopefully by the end of today, everybody will feel like you've got a pretty good understanding of what's going on and how we're using that. Feel free, and of course, no question is too basic or too advanced, so you can try to wow us with the questions that are too advanced. But so let us know if you feel like there's something that's not making sense, or if there's, or if you feel like it is all making sense and wait, but how would this work in real life, that sort of thing. So like I said, today we're just going to jump into it. Was anybody not here on Monday? Okay, so all you guys were here on Monday. Okay, so if anybody has questions about stuff we talked about on Monday in terms of kind of big picture goals and the path you could take from here, like I said, anytime, kind of open door policy, feel free to either email me or talk to me after class about that stuff, and we can check back in about that. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Vega himself.
Cool. All right, so does anybody have any general questions to start about the exercises or anything related to if statements? Okay. So the first example that he sent was this one right here, and I don't know if we ever covered comments. This is commented out with a hashtag, and you notice that if I take it off, sorry, see, it actually starts highlighting it normally. And when you add that hashtag and you do a comment, the computer is going to ignore that line of code in Ruby.
Should we now have just done a multi-line comment? I
think you would have to do it line by line, right?
Yeah, if assuming there's a carriage return in there.
Like, could you not have set it equals to begin and then do that and just capital equals, is it equals end?
No, I don't think so. Like, I don't think you can do a block of, can you do a block of comments in Ruby?
Yeah, let me just double check it.
Yeah.
But comments generally, so we hadn't talked about commenting things out here, have we? So the comment it's important. It's an important concept and something you'll see a lot. It's important for a couple reasons. In well-written code, you'll see it all the time, because that's what allows you to basically put in real-world language, like notes to other coders, like those who will come after you. Like if you're working on a project either with other people right now, or just assuming that someday either you yourself or someone else may come back in and want to try to interpret what you're trying to do, you can use the fact that anything that comes after a hash or a pound symbol is quote unquote commented out, that it's not going to be, it's basically like telling the computer, don't try to interpret this next line. So you can write in there, this is where I'm going to try to create the map function or something like that. So you can use it as a way to write notes to yourself, like if there's a place in your code where you know you're going to want to write something, or if you have already written it and you're trying to make a note to yourself about possible modifications in the future, or just what it is you are trying to accomplish with that. So that's one really important reason. Like people will actually, I hear employers talk about one of the things, we want people who write clean code, but we want people who write well-commented code as well. They don't want, just because you may be the most skilled coder in the world, but if you don't write any comments in the code, it means that the code is really hard for anyone else besides you to interpret. I mean, they'd have to go in and like read it line by line as if they were the computer trying to figure out what you intended to accomplish. And the other thing that's really interesting that like what I was just showing you guys with this is that by commenting out portions of code, you can basically isolate things where you think there might be a bug, or for some other reason you don't want that part to run yet. So you could, rather than writing what you might call natural language or notes to yourself, you might actually be writing what you hope will be code that runs in your program, but you know that for some reason you're getting an error, or you know it's not quite done yet. So you can, if you comment it out, the computer will just skip that part.
So what we have here is a very basic if expression. Does anybody know what's going on here? Or what did the question would be? What does this if statement evaluate to? Okay, we'll break it down. So essentially, for an if statement, the first section is checking to see if it's true. So right here it's very explicit. If true, evaluate to 0. Else, evaluate to 1. So we're essentially telling the computer anytime it's true, evaluate to 0. So this evaluates to 0. Because the true statement is right there, already set. Let's see.
Does that part make sense to everybody? To me, I kind of think of that as there's kind of a default that it assumes true unless false.
Right. Yeah, and I guess Ramiro told me to emphasize that the if statement is always checking for true value, and that's what's going to run right after. And if the expression evaluates to false, then it's going to be the else code that is going to run. And if there's no else code, then it's nil. That's what it evaluates to. So right here we have the first of the exercises, and the variables set are up here. So we got an integer, we got a string, and we got an array. Okay. Does anybody know what this first if statement or expression evaluates to? Right. Why is that?
Well, you've got an AND operator, so age greater than or equal to 18 is false, which is false to full. Expression is false. So it's a century else
Right. So yeah, that's right. So this whole expression right here is evaluating to false. And so what the computer looks for is the else section, because it's evaluating to false. Now, something very important to see here is that you're actually not going to get anything visually here, because the evaluation is just happening in the background. It evaluates to the string of unknown. So if you wanted to see an output, you would have to change that here. There it is. And I think you can see that in IRB, just so it's a little bit easier to see. I'm going to try to do it real quick. Really don't need to set that one for now. Let's see. So note that I'm not doing puts. I'm just doing the strings. And in the IRB, it will tell you what it evaluates to, even though it won't show if you run it on the file. Does everybody understand that difference? Is there any questions on that?
I have a question because now I realize that I can't remember now whether this is in Ruby or only in Python. Do you have to have the indentations there for it to run properly?
No.
No.
Yeah, and the IRB is doing it himself or itself.
Okay, and when you're in your text editor, you don't need the indentations either. They're just stylistic.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay. Right. Yeah, because I believe in Python you have to have them in order for it to interpret that this is happening within the if clause and this is happening within the else clause.
And I believe like you could theoretically like put it all in one line and it'll still.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. All right. Does anybody know what this evaluates to? Let's see. Yep. Why is that?
Because it's saying if the length password was equal to that pass is greater than or equal to 8, then it's going to output bad pass plus exclamation mark. And if it's not, it's going to output just the password, which would be bad pass. If it's the length of that string is 7, it outputs bad pass by itself without that exclamation.
Right. That's correct. So something I think I remember when he was explaining, and something to keep in mind as well, when he says, what is the if statement evaluate to, is essentially the very last thing at the end of the if statement. So once you visualize everything that runs, the very last thing that's going to be the output, that's what it means as what it evaluates to. Let me test it just in case. No. Okay. That checks out. So it's fairly simple. What is the evaluation on this one?
No.
Nil, that's right. Yep, that's correct. It evaluates to nil because there's no code. This whole statement is false and there's no code for the computer to run on a false evaluation. Therefore, nil. All right, on this one, can anybody explain to me what is going on, like before the evaluation? Just kind of walk me through it.
Is the include asking if the array has at least 4 characters?
Nope.
It's asking if it has a character form, which it does. In which case it would evaluate 2 of 3. If it doesn't have 4, it would evaluate to 9.
Right. So essentially, what's going on here is this is a parameter on this method. And so that's what Josias was saying, is checking to see if this element, which in this case is 4, is inside this array, because you got list, that's an array. And it's checking if it includes a 4, which in this case it does. There's a 4 right here.
Just the number 4.
Right.
Or you look for something of the value in the
Yeah, you could theoretically change this to and then look for that element.
So it wasn't like the other ones that where it says that at least 4 characters. It has at least 4 characters for the specific number 4.
Right, because of the include method. Right, the include looks for a parameter, and then you put it in, and yeah, it matches it up. So let me go back.
Does everybody understand where they include, like, that include, so because it's coming after the period there, so that means even like for instance, looking at it, I mean, I'm kind of rusty. I didn't even remember that there was a method called include, but looking at it, you should be able to get to the point where you figure out from the context, oh, I see, list is set to an array. List is a variable, which is currently set as an array. And so because list is set as an array, it now has that variable list. It's not, remember, it's not important what the word is. It could say A equals, it could say whatever. It now has all the methods that are built into arrays. And apparently one of those is include. And so there's, you can look them up. You can always you just Google or you can run in the,
You can do array.
Is it includes question mark? Does it come with a question mark or just
Methods. Let's see. Yeah.
I think yes, I do think the question mark is part of the method, because that's what's,
I think the question mark turns it into a Boolean, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it turns it into something that can be evaluated as either true or false, a Boolean.
you can use include that without the question mark?
I'm trying to think I don't know, is it listed without the question mark as well?
Let's see, include.
Can you control
I don't know. Let's see.
You said it changes it to a Boolean, so.
Yeah. No, there's no.
Yeah, sometimes there are some like that where there is a version with and without the question mark. In this particular case, it doesn't have a meaning.
Right, because you got empty, right? Empty with a question mark, and then how can you turn that into a non-Boolean, right? Because you check it if it's empty, and sometimes something can only be a Boolean. So you call the method empty. What does that do, right? Unless it's checking if it's empty or not. All right,
In this case, although you could imagine that include without a question mark could mean, oh, you should add it or something.
Right.
There's a different method for that.
Right, that's true. Let's see.
So yeah, you can always look for all within the terminal for all the methods that a particular class has, but you can also, sometimes it's easiest just to, if you Google it, you can get that exact same list from the documentation, but every single one will be explained really quickly for you.
Again, I forgot the methods.
So
To get the list.
yeah, in this case, I was looking for methods on an array specifically. So you can do several ways. For example, you can go to IRB and create an array. So you do equals array. Oh, I'm sorry, array, right? So now we know that list is an array. So you could do list.methods. And now it knows which methods because you set that variable as an array. If you did just list dot methods without creating the array, computer wouldn't know what to do with it. But in the previous, and this might be a little bit further ahead, but just so you can see, what I did is called the array class in Ruby, created a new one, and ran the methods method. But that's further ahead. So
what was that new doing? Was it creating an object?
Creating an instance, yeah, an instance of a class, yeah. So yeah, it's a little, well, I guess Ramiro will be the one to get to that. Let's see. Lost, there we go. Okay. All right, so just to review as to what's going on here, it's checking that there's a 4 element inside this array. Therefore, it evaluates to true, right? Because we know there's a 4 inside list. And because it is true, what does this evaluate to? 3. Why 3? Yeah, so that's right. The reason that it evaluates to 3 is because it's running this code. And what this code means is look at the first element of list. In this case, it's 3. So let me change this so it shows. Whoa, take it easy. Let's see. All right, now this is going to be a little bit of a new concept, and it's about variables updating themselves. What does that look like? So, no, go ahead.
You show your values, variables, so your variable value is set to create. And then in your if statement, it's looking whether the variable inside value is of the same value as create, which it is because they're the exact same string. So because of that, it sets the variable value equals to the string update.
Right.
So now, yeah, so now your variable value, instead of it equal to the string create, after that if statement, your variable value now equals the string update.
Yep.
You forgot one, you list -1. You forgot origin.
Yeah, that's the one we just did. Yeah. Let's see. So that's true. And for me, when I was learning, it was a little tricky because you first see the value variable up here, and you think, oh, it's going to be create all the time. And if you run this and you type value, it will say update. Why is that? And Josiah's explained it correctly. What it's saying is, I'm going to set a variable with the string create, and then I'm going to check with the if statement if the value is equal to the string create. So you guys catch that difference right here? You got one equal, and then you got a double equal. The difference is that one sets a variable, and the other one compares two expressions, whatever they are. Now, when the comparison is done, right here, it's evaluated into true. And because it's evaluated into true, it's gonna run this code. And what that code is essentially overriding the variable that existed already. So let's see if, let me out just in case. Anybody has a question on that?
Everybody catch that about the double equals? Anybody have a question as to why it's two equal signs?
If you were to ask why the equal signs, they would not include true.
What if you did, I think what you're asking is if you did this, right?
Yeah.
If you did this, what you're doing is you're setting another variable again. You're essentially replicating, right, the code in this instance.
I think you'll actually get it. Try that. I think you'll actually get an error because it doesn't make sense to say if and then set a variable. Huh?
It corrected it itself, it looks like.
Okay, yeah, I guess it's such a common error that it assumes that you meant to have the two.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess this would be like saying if something, make it a thing, which doesn't make any sense, right, when you say it like that.
Right. Like if you imagine it as a math problem and you were told x is equal to 5, and then you're essentially saying, rather than asking is x equal to 5, you're saying is x is equal to 7. You're like saying is this, and then you're just starting with a new statement like, oh no, x is actually equal to this other thing.
Right. All right. So what's going on in this line right here? Just this one line. What is happening?
You've set your variable value equal to an array, including the elements 1, 2, and 3.
Right. So now we got a variable and it's an array. What does this method check for?
So it's checking for the amount of characters inside
Right.
the array.
Yep. So now taking that into account, what does the whole if statement?
So you're asking the computer to evaluate whether 3 is greater than 1, which it is.
Right. So what does it run?
So it's gonna set. Okay, so it's gonna set value equals to a new array with an element of 0.
Yes. That's correct. Yeah, I gotta put that. The value is to 0.
Yep.
Not an array of 0.
Are you looking at?
You might have unlimited to an array of 0.
Who's did?
So
Yeah, what happens is that if what you want to have, for example, number 1, it will be puts value and the two things with a 0 inside. But you're saying value equals 0, so the answer is 0. I don't understand.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. But it should be the square brackets right here. They're set in an array, right? And
There is no value.
well, the value is 0.
I guess if you remove
What would happen if you put more than one element in the array?
Yeah, try that.
Okay.
I think it may have something to do with the difference between running the program versus running it in IRB.
Oh, it just
Yeah,
puts
I think IRB, I think when you run programs, that's how it shows you arrays.
okay.
If you put value without the equal sign and just the 0 in it, it
Yeah.
will give you the 1. The thing is, I think the difference is that it has the equal sign. So it's going to put only the values within the new array.
Right. Yeah, and I guess what was throwing me off is that I was expecting for this to display as an array, but it doesn't actually do that. What it does, it just takes each element inside the array and lists them. So that's kind of what was throwing me off.
Was anyone else actually running it at the same time?
Yeah, I ran it in IRB and it returns
An array.
array 0.
Right.
Okay.
And if you run it like that with a discrete, it returns 0.
Just 0.
Right.
Gotcha. Cool.
And the value.length thing,
Yeah.
does it count the elements or the characters inside the array?
I believe the elements.
Elements.
Yeah. So let's try it. So for example, right? So let's do puts value. Right. Oh, I gotta take all this off. Yeah. So each object inside the array.
Yeah. Sometimes this may not be worth telling you guys because if you're not confused by it, then it may just be telling you something that confuses me. But yeah, sometimes I get confused really quickly. Like I'm like, wait, is it going to tell me 2 or 3? Because is it going to start counting at 0? But no, it's not. When it's doing length, it's always telling you the number of elements in there. But if you were to pull out, of course, try to pull out element number 3, there is in fact no third element. There's only a 0th, a first, and a second.
Right. Yeah, like if you did this, right? It will say, it will be nothing because there's no, yeah.
Yeah, I run it, removing the equal sign and give you 1. As the example.
Which equal sign?
I mean on the exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah, both. Yes, puts value and.
Oh, it just puts value?
Because I would call the array that is on top.
Right, this calls, well, right now it's calling an element that doesn't exist, but I think what you're saying is this, right? Is that what you're saying? Let me see. Sorry.
So the example is this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So puts equal, it will give you this value for the features. With this, puts value without equal sign, it will give you information from the array.
Right. Yeah, and that's a big difference, right? Because in one, you're setting a variable, and then on another one, you're just asking to be pointed at something. So even though it's just an equal sign, it actually has completely different functionalities. I think, and just to show it, this is what he was talking about. So the original exercise is this, and I think what you have is value 0, right? That's what you have. So yeah, so the difference is in the syntax is right here, we're creating a new array with an object 0 inside. And this syntax simply points to this object. So
What did you do there, like beta mount? What did you do to beta mount?
I add a hashtag, which essentially comments the whole line out. So whenever you want to add a comment to your code, or take off the functionality of it in your program, you do that. And when you run that file, it's going to ignore everything in that line. Now this one's a little bit longer. Anybody want to take a stab at it? Like walk it down, break it down?
Values of A, if value were to be A minus 1, 7 is greater than equal to 7, which is true, and then you have a and statement, so closing statements now have to become true. Your value 8 times 3 is 24 divided by 12 is divided by 2 is 12, and then that ruling means that only one statement has to become true for it to become true. I think, right? Like 1 out of 2 statements have to be true.
Yeah, for an OR operator, yeah.
That's reversing what's inside of the operator. So 8 is less than 1 is false. So your statement becomes true. Everything becomes true.
Right.
And so I guess I return pizza.
It should, yeah. Hold on, it's gonna. Here we go. Yep. So it looks a little intimidating, and I don't know if anybody is a little confused by it. The way I start looking at it is you have to kind of divide it up by expressions. And so you want to first evaluate things in parentheses, and then you start. It's strange because sometimes you don't necessarily want to go left to right.
Would you start in parentheses there, or would it go like in order to write expression?
I think it goes.
Would it evaluate like first,
Right.
and then the second one, what it was, and then the third one, or would it evaluate that one first?
I think it looks at, and I may be wrong, so you might want to ask Ramiro too, but I think what it looks at is the operators. So that's how it starts dividing things. So in this case, it would look at the OR, and then it would divide it into one side, and then the other side, the other expression. So those two expressions will start evaluating to either true or false. And finally, that OR determines what the final evaluation is. So I don't know what the sequence is in computer science terms, but like the way I look at it is it happens almost simultaneously, depending on the operator, if that makes sense. It's almost like a tree. Does that make any sense? Like, am I?
Yeah, I think the question is a good one, but I think the logic is determined by the ands and the ors, but then the evaluation is determined by order of operations.
Yeah, but inside, like, there, I see different
Operators, right.
there's like divided into 3 different statements.
Yeah.
There, and that's from.
Yes, it goes from left to right, except that it's following the mathematical order of operations. So parentheses get evaluated before anything else.
So if that whole line, that last thing gets evaluated first?
Yeah, well, you can think of it as getting evaluated to a single something, but then when it's read, yeah, it's read left to right. So you can think of that as getting evaluated to, well, first to false and then to true because of the exclamation point. So then you've got a true sitting there at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I get that last part, but it's like overall, looking at the whole thing, would it evaluate that last thing at first before test parentheses, or would it evaluate the first one before the first one?
Yeah, that's a good question. And
There's not one way you can find out.
I mean, Ramiro, the way that he explains it, it would be in the whiteboard, and I mean, I can try. You want me to try? Because like, in terms of sequence, it's hard to understand unless you know really well how the computer looks at
The
it.
way I did it, I like the first one first, and second one, and then the second one, then from there, like, go down.
Right, and I think you can do that, but it's the same, like if you did the second one and then the other one and still that separation,
Yeah,
you're still gonna get
can
the
you think of an
result.
example where it leads to different results?
Right.
I guess not.
Because I think it's an interesting question, but I think as long as you follow the order of operations, basically as long as you follow first like the logical order with the and or, and then the order of operations within each one. I don't think.
What would happen if we remove the not? Can we test it out real quick?
And that,
Sorry,
You really needed to know then.
Yeah, I really needed to know.
the overall. Well, sorry, not the question of left to right won't address or won't affect the user.
It probably only affects it is when you have more than one, like on that value, if you have more variable like plus, minus, or minus, that will affect it that way. But like right now, it won't.
I might be wrong, but I think it just does them from left to right. I don't think there's an actual order of hierarchy because if you think about it, so if it's reading it from left to right, it's going to evaluate first that value minus 1 greater than or equal to 7, and that value times, I guess that doesn't make sense. So we have value times 3 divided by 2.
I think.
Yeah, we should ask Ramiro how it's taught like in a Cornell computer science class. But I actually, the more I think about it, I think that it actually treats what are and and ors called? Those are operators.
Right.
I think it treats operators above all.
Right.
So
Then it follows order of operations, and then it follows left to right, basically in that hierarchy. I think that's like the whole big picture
yeah,
view of
because
how it's
that's how I
operated.
was doing it, then just kind of like him, like, what if it does this first?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a good question, and I wish I had like the technical ability to
I
break
like
it
the
down.
fact
But,
that we came.
but I'm sure he'll watch the recording because this time I made sure to record it and he'll address it, I'm sure. Let's see. That's the end of the exercises. So
Okay.
You're missing.
I'm missing one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am. All right, let's see. Let me check. Yes, I am. All right. And I'm missing the end. Okay. Do you know what's going on in it? Or what's happening in this if statement? Yep.
So you've got your variable value, you set it to Now, logically speaking, it's gonna get the length of the array, which would be 3.
Yep.
It's gonna check if 3 is less than or equal to 3, which it is true. It's gonna push 4 into the array value, so now you have an array of 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right. That's correct. So, yep, that's how the array gets displayed right here with the puts method. Did everybody catch that? Anybody not get what's happening here? So yeah, this is the push operator, and there's different ways to do that too. Like there's other methods.
Why do we need the if value link? It just put 4 into the value, that's all it did, right?
You could do that, right? Because it is the same functionality. But I think the reason that he's doing that is so that you can see that you can call a method on a variable and then use that to run a line of code.
Right. Like you can imagine all sorts of reasons why you might not want to add another thing to this list of things if there are already more than 3 things in the list. Like say this is actually a list of clients and you can only handle 3 clients at a time. So if there's 3 or fewer clients, if there are fewer than 3 clients, then go ahead and add this client name. And then we haven't quite got to it yet, but else.
How are they gonna know when?
So there will be a line of code that will update value, right? So value would be, in this case, I think it's a simple snippet of code, but I think what he's trying to demonstrate here is that eventually you want to create a logic where you don't want to explicitly put, oh, I can't handle more than 5 people, because you'd have to go into the code and do it. What you want to build is a self-contained, I guess, segment, right? That you know the variable and then you know how to update it, and then it still works because you're just changing the variable and not the code itself. I think that's what it is, right? And I don't know if that made any sense.
Well, because another thing we could address is the fact that the push method really is just a shortcut for resetting value to an array of 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
So that's another way to look at it. You could also use the push method to concatenate strings to
Yeah. So I guess to answer the question simply, like, yeah, you definitely could do that. And it's not forbidden, right? Like you could do that. And that's just something that Ruby allows. But I think the reason that he wants to include the variable is just so that you can see how it behaves in different scenarios.
Does anybody have any questions so far?
I have not really a question, more like an observation. That exercise that we did when we're expecting the array 0 and just 0 print. Instead of puts value,
Yeah.
It print value, and it does array 0.
Okay.
Like when you run the program.
When you do print instead of puts.
And in a way that kind of makes sense too, because maybe that's similar to the way that puts always puts. Part of puts includes an enter after each one. So it basically treats things within an array. It's putting an enter in between every single thing in that array.
Yeah, that's what made me try it this last one.
Yeah, you were a step ahead.
Yeah. I think I guess puts is put string, right? So the method is to put a string, and maybe that plays into part 2.
Yeah.
But I'll show everybody what that is. So we got puts value versus print value. So I'm gonna show both, just look at the difference. And it kind of looks weird over here, but you got the string 0 inside the array, and then you got the actual array, how it looks like. So, yeah, cool. It's pretty cool.
Any other questions or comments on that? So I'm gonna, since we're done with those exercises, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanna take a minute. To me, I like to try to think of more even if they're really tiny, okay, real world, how do we apply what we're talking about? So I wanna try to together, we'll let somebody raise their hand. It can't be Josiah. And maybe, I don't know, Alberto's been quiet for a little while, but somebody else, maybe somebody who has the answer to anything. We'll start going through and try to answer this. So imagine, so here's the hypothetical. Jorge and Alberto are cousins, and Jorge wants to write a program that makes his cousin Alberto feel bad. He wants the computer he wants to write a program that says, hey, what is your name? And have the person put their name in. And if the person says their name is Jorge, it says, damn, Jorge, you're a good looking dude. And then if the person says Alberto, it says, bad hair day, Alberto, question mark. So let's see, so that's the whole thing. It's like a trick. You can modify it to your siblings or whatever. You can, if you just want to show off to somebody. So how would you start? That's all you want it to do. And let's say if the person says something, let's say it's just if it says something other than either of those names, it just says, hey, nice to meet you, so-and-so, say it doesn't, and it puts their name in. So we're starting from a blank slate. I just got an itchy hand, but how would you guys start it? So the very first thing we want the computer to do is to say, hey, what's your name? How would we start? Maybe you can open you can keep track on since you've got the screen.
Okay. What do you want to name it?
What does it have to say if the name is Jorge?
What's that?
What does the file need to say if the name is Jorge?
If the name is Jorge, what does it say? Damn, you're a good-looking dude. Or dang, you're a good-looking dude. If damn is too strong. Dang, you're a good-looking dude.
I'll just do it. I'm not funny. There you go.
Is everyone writing it on their own to see if they can get it? Okay, fair enough.
I can try to get started on it.
No. Just as you can write it too and see if yours works, and then you can tell us if yours works first.
Okay.
All right, move it.
So that's the first thing you say would be, how does it tell what is your name, right? That would be the first instruction on the program.
The first, if you're commenting it.
I guess if you do it sequentially, the first thing that you want.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, just so if you're working on it, so it's pretty straightforward. It just says, hey, I'll give you a small hint that there's one little, it'll say, hey, what is your name? If you want it to sound cooler and write, hey, what's your name? I'll just tell you to watch out with that apostrophe that doesn't throw off any strings you're using there. Just a little hint. You can make it say, hey, what's your name? You just have to be careful about how you write it. Yeah, there's two options for addressing that.
That situation.
And then just so we're all on the same page, so then it's going to say, it's just ask what your name is, and then there's 3 different possibilities. If the person responds Jorge, it says something to the effect of, dang, you're a good looking dude, or dang, Jorge, you're a good looking dude, if you want it to include the name. Either way is fine. If it says Alberto, it's whatever you want this terrible insult to be to Alberto. He's not even turning around. Having a bad hair day, Alberto, or something like that. And then if it's neither one of them, it just says, hey, nice to meet you, so and so, whatever the person's name is. Is yours working?
Yeah.
Just as? Did you test it with all 3?
I'm about to test the third one, but I'm pretty confident.
You look confident.
I'm curious.
Cynthia, is yours? Do you have it? Yeah. Not yet.
That's because you're
Yeah.
setting a variable, new variable name equals Jorge, and that's not even a string. We have no indication. And we're just setting up a new character. Yep.
And then the second.
So, yeah, equal sign. So remember that one equal sign is just, what's the one, set in the middle? Yeah. So to compare if they're the same value, you have to do it that way. You just have to have that equal sign. Because now it's gonna check if your variable name has the value as a string form.
So what is the error message telling you?
So are people stuck? Are you still working?
And then you start doing it little by little, but yeah, that's a good question.
How do you get why isn't it working? What's up with this?
Oh, it's
Not the program,
the actual Windows. This one.
No.
Yeah. So you have to go up.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Okay, what do you got?
Okay. Then within a string, I have what's your name?
So is it like this, like a single,
No,
double? Aha, yes. Good thinking. Oops.
your name, question mark. No, between question mark and double. And then below that, I have name equal get that. Then below that, I have if name equals sign equals sign. Two equals sign. then string Jorge. Below that I have fruits. And what you said, you're actually looking there, within a second. Below that I have else
And Ruby, would you normally skip back?
Go back, I have that.
He's got also. Yeah, also. Then make two equal signs. And then over it. Then put. And have an updated question. Then I have L. Then you go put hi, comma, nice to meet you. You can put a space in there. Yeah. Now what I did is I put the slash, one that goes to the left.
Oops, messed that up.
Down N.
What?
N.
Oh, you do
And
that.
then how I
Yeah, line, okay.
I have an enter character.
That's fine.
and then N.
There's only, well, I don't know if this is much of an issue maybe, but what if the user decided to enter Jorge Alberto in all capital letters and all downcase letters? Would that?
Did you address that in yours, or you
I
say?
did address that in mine.
You looked up that method?
So
Or you just, which did you did it with the method, or you?
yeah, I did it with the method.
Okay.
So go up to your,
Hold on, let's run his really quick, and then we will do that, because that is actually a good point that a lot of people would want to address. Okay, so let's say our name is Karina. Hi, nice to meet you. How are you? So that's what we expected, right? Okay. A good looking dude. Alberto. Having a bad day, Alberto? And so let's try it one more time to illustrate the problem that Josiah's talking about. Let's say Jorge is like, damn, I got this awesome program. We're going to play a trick on Alberto. It's going to be great. But then Alberto's lazy. He doesn't capitalize his name. And all it says is, nice to meet you. How are you? And he's like, dang it, I screwed up. My program doesn't work. Okay, so how are we going to modify this to make it still work?
all right, so you're well,
Go for it.
I'm gonna write it. All right, so now that I went to the beginning, I really want to change that credit to a place. Just for
Sure, we can do that.
all right, so
For the record, there was nothing wrong with print, but yeah.
So, because Ruby does allow you to do multiple methods within a variable, you could say your name equals regex dot chunk and then dot, and we could either upcase or downcase it. So downcase, or yeah, so downcase. So now, if you really want this to work, you want to say Jorge to all.
Downcase?
Yes,
Yeah.
so it downcases whatever is in the string. So you have to set Jorge to all lowercase and Alberto to all lowercase. Now, if you want that, I don't know why, but for the else, I just said, hey, and then I put a hash word,
Mm-hmm.
or it's called squiggly bracket.
Sorry, for the else if or the else?
For the else.
Okay.
So I said, hey, So then now I want you to do a hashtag.
String interpolation.
Yeah.
Squiggly bracket.
Squiggly bracket.
Name. And then ending squiggly bracket. So then you can just like take off the, actually no, keep the comma there. And we'll erase everything from the enter characters folder. So we'll just keep it short to nice and easy.
Does everybody know what that is? The hashtag and the squiggly?
I was gonna ask.
Okay. So that the technical term of that is called string interpolation. What that means is that it takes any object, turns it into a string, and adds it to the string. So you know how when we started learning Ruby, you can turn something with dot to underscore s. That's one way to do it. But this is an easier syntax to do the same functionality, and that way you keep your sentence looking nicer. So it's the same thing. You can take an integer, for example, and do that the hashtag and squiggly lines, and then be able to mix it in with a string, because you can't really mix, an integer and a string. But this allows you to include the object as a string into another string.
Okay, so does everybody think this is going to work? Does anybody see any issues? Does anybody take issue with Josiah's code here? No? Okay, so what's your name?
What's your all caps?
Yeah.
What's that?
Very rude. So
Rude?
Yes.
Because I have an issue with this, so it's going to be, I'm going to say Dan in all caps. The problem is, I would prefer it to address me in something other than, isn't it going to address me in lowercase? Let's see.
Oh,
It's gonna yell.
you're right.
It's gonna yell at you.
Yeah, see, you didn't even address your own issue. You were the one who wanted to, well, I mean, your issue was actually more important because you wanted to make sure that it identified properly, it didn't distinguish. But now, how do we get it to say?
Did you name that upcase?
I think it will upcase all.
It'll upcase the whole, which would work in this particular
So you
case.
want it,
There is one, right?
Yeah.
I actually don't know what it is, but I mean, this is a great example of where you just Google, is it called title case or something like that?
Oh my God, yeah.
Different languages call it something else.
Title. No.
Title.
Half title.
Just title.
Capitalized.
That's
It's
inside.
an option.
I think it's inside.
yeah, it has to be inside the script. Yeah, just need to.
So let's do this in this time. But actually, we'll do all caps again just for the sake of it. Aha, so we have, okay, undefined method title.
It was the same one. Capitalized is the one that was on this.
Capitalized? That sounds right,
Yeah,
actually.
got capitalized.
There you go.
Very good. Great. So that's a great example of how, often like good coding actually tends to work that way, where you really want to have something that accomplishes the basics of what you want to do, that really gets the nuts and bolts of the task done, which yours did great. And then you can sit and think about how you want to make it extra special or perfect little imperfections in it. So I think some people would actually say that, so Josiah's idea was a good one. Some people would say with a lot of code, it would actually be a better idea not to worry about that with your first time through, because you're just adding additional things that could go wrong. So you want to, people call it iterative coding or working with iteration. So you do like the simple, most viable solution, and then you go through and you can add additional features to it later. Does that make sense? So I want to make sure we get out of here on time. The Ramiro will be adding additional homework, but one problem that's slightly more difficult that I thought would be nice for everybody to try, that that I guess I enjoyed the first time I was doing it. Do you guys all know the song? Has anyone heard that song, 99 Bottles of Beer on the Wall? It's like, yeah, some people, yeah, unfortunately, exactly. So it's like one of these songs that's just designed, it's like the wheels on the bus go round and round. It's like designed to annoy people. But in part because of that, it makes for a good coding exercise, because the way the song goes, for anyone who doesn't know it, is you sit around and you sing 99 bottles of beer on the wall, 99 bottles of beer, take one down, pass it around, 98 bottles of beer on the wall, 98 bottles of beer on the wall, 98 bottles of beer on the wall, take one down, pass it around, 97 bottles of beer on the wall, and then you keep going all the way through. So the homework assignment is to write a program that will print out all the lyrics to 99 bottles of beer on the wall. Now, I'll go ahead and tell you, obviously there's one way which you might call, the coders might call like the brute force way, which is the least elegant way, which would just be to write, print, and each of those the first line, or actually puts probably, because you want them on separate lines probably, puts the first line, then puts the second line. You can just sit there and write it out like you are writing the lyrics, but that's not what we're looking for. So we want you to use what you've learned so far to try to write out a program that prints to the screen all the lyrics to 99 bottles of beer on the wall.
That would be a loop at that point, right?
Yeah, that'd be, well.
Yeah, and I will say, yeah, what we can send around this link too, but so this is actually, it's the first, I didn't just come up with this, it's the first assignment in the homework on the Pine.fm learning to program lesson. So you're all the way, at this point you would be all the way up to lesson 6, flow control. So we'll send that around. There are a couple different ways. There are, like with most coding problems, there are multiple ways to do it. The easiest way to do it does involve using the loop, which is something that we haven't explicitly talked about so far. So I would start, for that particular problem, I would start by reading through this chapter 6. I'll send around the link right now before I leave on Slack. But even though it's called, each of these is called a chapter, I mean, it's basically just one page that you scroll down. Oh yeah, it's on there too. So I'll send.
Probably still doing it as a manager. It'll take a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, the loop is inside an if, right? Like the statement, that's how you start a loop. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm trying to think if you could. I'd have to think about whether you can do it without using anything you haven't learned.
Yeah,
so far. But
I'll take a stab at it.
Excellent. We want everybody to take a stab at it.
It would be a block, right? A block would be without an if. That's how you do a loop. Just like each do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if you need. Actually, now that I can look at my. I'm trying to think you need.
Because each do is just a +1 loop, I think.
But do you need a while? Do you need either a while statement or a or a,
for the block,
Yeah.
I think you do the parameter variable, then inside that block, you write, yeah, right. You write the code that would be the for loop. I think that's how I think that's how the dot each works. So you do bottle in between the straight lines or whatever, and then pipes, right? It's like a pipe, is that what it's called? Yeah, between the pipes, and then you write the code as long as bottle is less than 99 level.